Would you like to have Frozen 2 spoiled? If you haven't seen it yet, be warned, this video will contain spoilers. But if you have, then you know this highly anticipated sequel to Frozen has a surprisingly somber tone compared to the previous film. If you've ever wanted to see a snowman have an existential crisis, well, that's a very specific request, but don't worry because Frozen 2 will provide. If anything, Kristoff's relationship with Sven has only gotten weirder, and we learn way too much about his life with Anna. Let's take a look at some of the darkest moments to happen to our Arendelle-dwelling heroes. The adorable Olaf passing away is unthinkable, or at least it was until we saw it happen in Frozen 2. Not only did we have to say goodbye, but we had to watch him slip away in a particularly tragic manner. After yearning to feel warmth for so long, Olaf finally got his wish when the permafrost wore off and he perished in Anna's arms, while she was forced to watch on in dismay. It's not the first time Disney's forced us to say goodbye to a character. How many of us are still traumatized after what happened to Bambi's mom? But this moment was particularly grim, and although Olaf was eventually resurrected, it was still hard to watch. Well, at least for all the kids. I definitely didn't get teary-eyed over an animated snowman. For Olaf, having specific temperature requirements is understandable, but watching the Ice Queen Elsa losing her life via freezing is the kind of spoiler that you might think was fake if you hadn't seen the movie. Sadly, it was all too real, and it was pretty traumatic. The whole first movie really drove home the point that Elsa felt lonely and isolated, and then in the second movie she pushed away her doting sister and froze all by herself, far away from any other human being. Yeah, she too came back to life, kind of, but watching her become encased in ice was a lot for kids to handle. In fact, watching Elsa leave Anna alone in the first place was really sad. These two girls were really close as kids, and we got to see some heartwarming scenes of the little princesses playing with snow and listening to bedtime stories. After missing out on so much time with her big sister, Anna was desperate to stay by Anna's side, out of fear that she would lose her again, which was exactly what happened. Elsa literally pushes Anna away and goes off to her doom without her. Even though Anna wasn't the one who ended up literally frozen, she still experienced an incredibly painful time, and the movie didn't shy away from pointing out her despair. And that's putting it mildly, since Disney had her sing a song about it. Way to really twist the icicle. After losing both her sister Elsa and her companion Olaf, Anna is left completely alone in a dark, terrifying cave, far from her home in Arendelle. And what better time or place to burst into a song? The tune The Next Right Thing is about feeling completely lost in life and not knowing what to do with yourself. Anna's pain is so blinding that she struggles to see the future and basically resorts to a put one foot in front of the other mantra just to get through the next few minutes. For someone who prides herself in her ability to keep her family together, this was a huge blow to Anna, and the song really reflects that. It's a great tune, but the melancholy message is undeniably tragic. The Next Right Thing is far from the only somber song in the movie. Right from the get-go, the cast sings "Some Things Never Change," but don't let the uplifting melody fool you because the lyrics are really sad. Olaf becomes consumed with fear about the future and the inevitability of things changing, and not always for the better. That's an experience plenty of us can relate to, but seeing a notoriously cheerful animated snowman go through it is, well, it's something to say the least. Anna sings about how everyone's getting older and Peter Pumpkin just became fertilizer because what kid doesn't want to hear a song about death and decay? Although the characters go on to list things they believe will stay the same forever, it's abundantly clear that they won't. It might be tempting to laugh at Anna's naivete if we weren't faced with this crushing reality in our own lives. Continuing on with the movie's depressing soundtrack, we have the song When I Am Older. I'm not sure exactly what the life cycle of a snowman is like, but it seems like Olaf is having some kind of existential crisis throughout this film. Even his whimsical jokes seem sad since they're peppered between his incredibly somber statements. When he gets separated from his friends, he wanders through the strange woods singing When I'm Older. The song's about Olaf reassuring himself that someday, when he grows up, he'll be able to look at all this terrifying stuff and laugh about it. He also sings about that traditional childhood delusion that the world will make more sense as an adult. Seriously, did you laugh or cry when he said, "When I'm more mature, I'll feel totally secure"? Being an adult is difficult in the real world, but when you have to deal with magical powers and running a kingdom on top of it all, well, it's a lot. Especially when you're hearing voices. For most people, that's a sign you need to get professional help. But for Elsa, it's her cue to isolate herself from all of her loved ones and charge off into the unknown all by herself. When Anna questions her about the mysterious voice, Elsa assures her that she somehow knows the voice has good intentions. No wonder Disney princesses are always falling prey to poison apples or cursed spinning wheels. Sometimes it's okay to trust your instincts, but that doesn't mean throwing all rationality and common sense out the window. But on a much more cheerful note, let's take a break from the bleak realities of existence and hit that subscribe button, huh? Make sure your relationship with the YouTube algorithm doesn't sour by turning on your notifications either right here or in settings if you're on your phone. Now let's get back to the dark and dreary world of Frozen 2. The mysterious voice leads Elsa across the ocean, and it's not an easy journey to say the least. Especially when you don't even have a boat. Elsa's able to use her magic powers to get over the worst of the waves crashing into the shore, but then comes into contact with an elemental spirit of water that takes the form of a horse. Kids love horses, except when they explicitly try to drown their favorite movie characters. Seriously, this spirit shoves Elsa down into the depths with its hooves while she struggles to breathe. She manages to survive and tame the spirit, but it looked pretty dicey there for a while. Even if you have magical powers, trying to traverse a raging sea is generally a bad idea, and Elsa went into this knowing full well what a dangerous situation it was, since she already discovered her parents' wrecked ship on the shore. That's a big yikes for a kids movie. We know that Elsa and Anna's parents had perished, but Disney apparently wanted to show us proof of that in the form of their smashed up ship, just in case it wasn't already sad enough. Why not just have their skeletons laying around too while we're at it? Even though Elsa and Anna didn't find their parents on board that shipwreck, they did find out some new and tragic information. Apparently, the whole reason they embarked on their doomed journey was to discover more about Elsa's magic. This means that if Elsa was a regular human without any special powers, they wouldn't have sailed away, and there's a chance that they could still be alive. Elsa takes this incredibly personally and blames herself for the loss of her parents. Although Anna is on hand to reassure her that it's not her fault, Elsa is naturally devastated, and it's clear that this news has shaken her to her core. There is a lot of magical madness going on in Frozen 2, but there's also a much more mundane subplot about Kristoff proposing to Anna. Even though the guy struggles to get it right, it's pretty obvious that he's going to eventually get the words out, and she's going to say yes. But it definitely stresses the poor guy out, so much so that he even sings a song about it. Then he makes the highly questionable remark that reindeers are easier, which is best case scenario just a very strange way to articulate the fact that relationships are challenging. But when he says this, Sven's reflection in a shop window makes it look like he's wearing a pretty dress, which definitely makes it sound like a worst case scenario. And speaking of nightmare situations, we got to see an interaction between Kristoff and Anna that is way too real. The two of them have a moment alone while everyone else is asleep, and Kristoff decides to pop the question. But he just ends up insulting Anna and calling her crazy, which understandably doesn't go over very well. And him reassuring her that she just used to be crazy doesn't make her feel any better for some reason. Kristoff fails so spectacularly that it kinda sounds like he wants to dump Anna instead of propose to her. It might have been intended to sound like a comical misunderstanding, but it really highlighted Kristoff's poor communication skills, and Anna's inability to give him the benefit of the doubt. Going into Frozen 2, many fans hoped Elsa would finally find some love. And after seeing the movie, I'm assuming there are already a million fanfictions out there about Elsa and Honeymarin. Not that I already started bookmarking them or anything. These two sing part of a lullaby that Elsa's mother taught her in a flashback, before they realize that this song is actually really depressing. They bond over the realization that a lot of children's songs actually have really horrible messages. Apparently, that's one aspect of the real world that made it into this fictional universe. In a lot of classic Disney movies like The Little Mermaid, our heroes strike out from their families to try to make it on their own. Or in flicks like Cinderella and Snow White, they flee from their incredibly dysfunctional and downright dangerous families. But more modern tales like Lilo and Stitch and Frozen show family as valuable, which makes Kristoff's upbringing oh so sad. Yeah, the guy's weirdly into reindeer, but let's forget that he grew up as the only human around a bunch of trolls. His struggles to communicate to his bride-to-be only remind us of his tragic upbringing, and frankly, the fact that he's not a lot more socially maladjusted is really impressive. Did anyone else get serious Pocahontas vibes from Frozen 2? It probably had something to do with the fact that it tells the story of indigenous people who were happily minding their own business before outsiders interfered and ruined everything. The Northuldra lived in the woods outside Arendelle, and peacefully coexisted with the spirits inhabiting those woods. Then the citizens of Arendelle showed up and mucked everything up so badly that the Northuldra were trapped inside of an impenetrable barrier and stopped being able to communicate with their beloved spirits. Even though Elsa and Anna were unable to do this, it's inescapably terrible that the Northuldra had to live like this for so long. Some soldiers from Arendelle were stuck there too, and even though they were the invading party, they were clearly ignorant of their king's role in the conflict. Oh, and did I mention that Elsa and Anna's grandfather was a horrible human being? Yeah, that was a major plot in Frozen 2. Elsa and Anna grew up believing their father's story that the Northuldra betrayed Arendelle, but the truth was the complete opposite. King Runard gave the Northuldra a dam, but it wasn't a gesture of peace and was instead intended to weaken them enough for him to strike. Not only is this remarkably cruel, it's also not unlike actual historical events, which ends another depressing layer to this movie. But building a dam with a bridge over the water was only part of the vile King Runard's plot against the Northuldra. He gathered his soldiers together and journeyed to their land under the guise of friendship, and then did everything he could to get their leader alone. When he was completely defenseless and ignorant of any threat, the king struck his unarmed foe, who was just trying to enjoy a nice cup of tea. Even in an all-out war, this would be considered a cowardly and cold move. But as far as the Northuldra were concerned, the people of Arendelle were their allies, making this scene all the more despicable. Oh, and of course, we actually had to see Elsa memorialize this moment of hideous betrayal with a classy ice sculpture. King Agnar told his daughters that the Northuldra were treacherous and betrayed Arendelle, which we later learned was the exact opposite of what really happened. But don't be too harsh on Agnar, who was really just another victim of his father's machinations. King Runard took his soldiers with him to visit the Northuldra, which makes sense considering his plot. But why on earth did he feel the need to bring his young son with him? He knew there was going to be an incredibly dangerous battle and unknown magic flying around, but he still saw it fit to let his son tag along. Suddenly, Agnar's own shortcomings as a parent seemed slightly more understandable. We also gained some sympathy for Iduna, the mother of Elsa and Anna. One of the big reveals in the movie was that Iduna is of Northuldra descent. She helped Agnar escape during the fight between their people, and the two later fell in love and married. Not only did Iduna have to leave her home, but she had to live with the rhetoric that her people were vile traitors against the people of Arendelle. Having to listen to your husband telling your kids a bedtime story about how horrible your people are must have been really awkward. Elsa and Anna learned the truth about their heritage and their grandfather's crimes. When Anna realized that the dam had to be destroyed, she did so without hesitation. Like, without spending a single moment to ruminate on the fact that taking out the dam would completely annihilate Arendelle. Yes, it had to be done, but did it have to be done right that second? Couldn't she have even tried to get a message to the people of Arendelle letting them know what was going to happen? Instead, she went straight to an act that she fully believed would decimate their kingdom and everyone's homes and possessions. But of course, Elsa showed up at the last moment to prevent her sister from totally annihilating Arendelle. And then Anna gets crowned queen of the place she just tried to destroy, which is kind of awkward. For her coronation, everyone puts on some fancy clothes, even Kristoff, who's visibly uncomfortable. Anna reassures him that she prefers his standard look because she likes seeing him in leather. That is way more than we needed to know about their relationship. Perhaps that's what earned the movie its PG rating. Kristoff's choice of wardrobe wasn't the only one which was looked at closely during Frozen 2. The fact that Olaf doesn't wear clothes was never weird because, well, he's a snowman. It's not like he gets cold or anything, and he doesn't have anything to cover up. But in this movie, Disney decided to make it weird by having Olaf point out the fact that he doesn't wear clothing. He then added that he could wear something, but chooses not to because he finds clothes restricting. Why'd you have to go and make things weird, Olaf? When the movie first started, it was established that the main cast is all pretty happy with their lives and enjoy a level of closeness with one another. But ultimately, this just made the ending all the more depressing. Yes, Elsa did come back to life, but as a spirit, she is forced to stay north, instead of returning to Arendelle with the family that she had waited so long for. This moment wasn't as depressing as the rest of the movie, but it still was pretty inappropriate. Throughout the movie, Olaf harps on the idea that water has memory, and talks about how water passes through living things. And when he talks about it passing through animals, he holds up Sven's tail, implying, well, you get the picture. One of the reasons the Frozen franchise is so popular is because it shows different types of relationships instead of making it seem like romance is the end game. There's the sisterly love between Anna and Elsa, friendship, and whatever's going on between Sven and Kristoff. But what about the relationship between the Northuldra and the people of Arendelle? It was bad in the past, of course, but what about moving forward? The people of Arendelle have to grapple with the fact that their kingdom did something atrocious, but that making up for it nearly destroyed everything they have. It hardly seems like the events of Frozen 2 put these two groups of people on the path for a happy and healthy relationship. What do you think about the surprisingly dark tone of Frozen 2? Was it a refreshing change of pace, or did some of these movie moments just go too far? Let us know what you think in the comment section below, and don't forget to click on that subscribe button for more videos from CBR. Bye for now.